it now gives me great pleasure to introduce our first collaborative keynote given by Tara Bosch, an entrepreneur who founded Smart Sweets to tackle the challenge of unhealthy things that we put into our favorite foods, and Judy Brooks, an award-winning serial entrepreneur and mentor for many up-and-coming companies. Please help me welcome them to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see so many of you here. And I get the pleasure of hanging out with one of my favorite people, my new favorite people from what did we meet, Tara, like a year and a half ago now? Year and a half ago now.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So I'm going to give you the story of our meeting, and then I'm going to ask Tara some questions. So I got a call, gosh, maybe last, I guess, October, and somebody in the community texted me and said, I'd really like you to meet this young woman. She's an incredible entrepreneur. I hadn't yet heard of the product, and I think she could, it would be of benefit for you guys to meet. And so I said, okay, because that's what I usually say, okay, let's have a meeting. And I think that we got our wires crossed, which means that Tara didn't answer her text. So I said, hey, let's meet up, and we didn't. And then finally, when I got back, I had been away, and I got back from my trip with a broken shoulder. And the guy said to me, did you meet up with Tara? And I said, no, I haven't met up with her yet. And right away, I got a text from Tara, let's meet up. So we met up in Gastown to have a tea. I had a broken shoulder. I was not feeling particularly emotionally intelligent. But I walked in, Tara was at the back, pretty much wearing what she's wearing now with a baseball cap. And I sat down and I was kind of like, why am I here? Why am I here? I don't feel like doing this today. And she started to talk. And within about a minute, I realized that she was exactly the kind of person I wanted to support. And within about 90 seconds, I realized that she had the ability to take in information and assimilate faster than probably anybody I've ever met. And within the first 2 minutes, I realized that she was brilliant. She was brilliant. And so I was lucky enough to hook up with her, and we were lucky enough to be able to work together in some manner. And so, Tara, first of all, what high school did you go to?
Well, one, that's gracious of you. I went to a high school in Surrey called Pacific Academy.
And then, what university did you go to?
For the time that I spent at university, I went to UBC.
So before we hit company up, the time you did spend at university, what does that mean, Tara?
Yeah, it means that I spent 2 years at UBC before starting Smart Sweets, where I then dropped out of university to build the company.
And so I think we'll hit that one first because there's parents in the audience. We don't want them to think that. You dropped out of university, why?
I dropped out of university because Smart Sweets was really something that it truly lit my soul on fire, and it became very clear for me that what I felt in building Smart Sweets, I did not feel that same passion towards what I had been studying at UBC, and at the same time had just got accepted into an accelerator program that would foster Smart Sweets growth.
What were you studying?
So I started at UBC in art, studying political science, realized I wasn't passionate about that, but I'm German, my grandmother speaks German, and so I started studying German because I figured if there's one thing I'm going to get out of university, if it's not political science, I'll just study German and speak German with my Oma.
With Oma. So when you were listening to Sarah up here, and you heard about what SFEU is doing and that idea that you could meld what it is you're passionate about while still continuing with your education, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely incredible opportunity to be able to say, hey, I'm gonna start exploring this area that I think I might be interested in and have the ability to actually learn about entrepreneurship and what you might be passionate about within that realm as well. So I think that's pretty incredible that that actually exists now. When I was at UBC, that didn't exist. So I was studying art and wanted to learn about entrepreneurship and business, and specifically I remember wanting to take an economics course, but I was pigeonholed to having to take arts courses. So that's pretty incredible and cool that that is an opportunity that now exists.
Yeah, so here you were. When did you leave university? We won't use the word dropout. When did you drop out?
I left UBC about 16 months ago.
Yeah, so you're 23 now. I have a joke that when I first met Tara, she was 22, and now that she's 23, she's no longer a young entrepreneur. She's just an old one. So you left, and you went into the kitchen. And what did you start doing there, and why?
Yeah, so for me, growing up, candy was my thing, and it was also my grandma's thing. It was like running through our blood. The lady at 7-Eleven knew my name because I was in there for penny candy several times a day. And she shared with me one day that she really regretted having so much sugar over the years, specifically because of candy, because of how it impacted her health and really how it made her feel about herself. So for me, that was really shocking because I had an unhealthy relationship with food growing up that affected my confidence. And so I went looking for something that was naturally addressing sugar and really opened my eyes to the shocking reality of how much sugar is packed into our food products today and what sugar is doing to us as a society. So that is what sparked really the quest to innovate the first candy that kicks sugar, which led me to my kitchen with a gummy bear mold from Amazon, and just began tinkering away to make healthy gummy bears.
So 16 months ago, you're in your kitchen, you're working with a mold from Amazon. You know nothing about even cooking, I bet.
No, I was horrible at cooking.
So you knew nothing. And then you created a product. So here we are 16 months later. What's happening with that product? Where is it?
Yeah, so today, Smart Sweets were available in just over 3,000 doors across the US and Canada with some retail partners, including Whole Foods, Target, Bed Bath & Beyond. We're a team of 17 squad members, have raised just under $3.6 million in funding, and we're on track to do $15 million, and this will be our second fiscal year in business.
So those are big numbers. Those are big numbers. When I met Tara, she had a team of 1.5 people. Well, no, 2.5 people. And so one of the things that, like I said to you, I recognized that I was, kind of in the presence of somebody that had a mind that kind of was literally accelerating exponentially by the minute, was that she had created, I think you were at about year one, you were at maybe just under $1.2 million when I first got to know you, some 16 months ago. So check out those numbers, $1.2 million to $15 million. That takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of focus, and it really takes understanding your product, but looking into community to make sure that you get to understand what you don't yet know. Because all the way along your entrepreneurial path, there will be a moment where you just don't yet know. You don't know something. You have a vision, you have focus, but you don't yet know. So what took you from that moment where you went, oh, this is sort of a cool thing to do, to, hey, I might have something here. I might have something that is bigger than my maybe even original intention. Maybe not belief, but intention. What was that moment?
Yeah, I mean, when I had this idea, and from day one in my kitchen, I just could not imagine a world where people could not have access to candy they could feel good about. And I think that was really important because when you think of your idea, if you think of it, would that be something that's nice to have in the world, or is it like you physically cannot wake up every single day imagining this thing not existing to serve people in the world? So I think for me, it was that conviction where from day one I always knew that it was something that people needed, but the validation from seeing, oh wow, this actually could be something, I think, was when we first launched on shelves just under a year later from beginning to recipe test in my kitchen. And the first month after we launched, I realized that I had under forecasted and we were going to run out of inventory. And so that was the first moment for me where I was like, wow, okay, the people that we're serving are actually really resonating with the product that I've created.
Where was your first shelf?
And so we launched, our first retail partner was Choices Markets and Popeyes Supplements.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. Sarah used the word earlier, entrepreneurial rock stars. And, you know, I have, as you know, Tara, I've had a few businesses and sold a few businesses. And I love the energy behind that idea of being entrepreneurial rock stars. But we're sitting up here with a success story. And that means that out of 50% of businesses go out of business in their first 5 years. Out of those 50% that are left, is 90% of those businesses will make under $1 million a year. That is still a success. Owning and starting a business and being able to keep in business beyond the 5 years makes you successful in that business. Starting a business that might not last 5 years also gives you a measure of success in terms of stuff you learn about yourself and stuff you learn about the world. So I think it's really important for those of you that are considering owning a business. So I would even maybe consider that being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you have to own a business. It's a mindset. Owning a business is a whole different thing. And it takes the kind of intention and focus that Tara has. Even to this day, I know, I happen to be chair of her board, which is a huge honor. And one of the things that strikes me every day is that Tara, at this stage in her career, at this stage in her business, never asks someone to do something that A, she hasn't done or won't do, and she never asks them to put in an hour extra in the day that she hasn't already put in times 3. So that idea that you just have you have a concept and then you take it to market and it explodes, it doesn't happen without a lot of hard work. When you think back to those early days, 16 months ago, which is still, like in Smart Suites, we have a thing that every year is like dog years. Every week is like times 10. So 16 months ago, when you were doing everything, you would be what I would call a lean startup. And I think that's our philosophy at the board table and within the organization is, what does that mean? What does a lean startup mean? What does that mean that you had to do? And what does that mean you had to give up as a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the really exciting thing is that when in today's world, to get started and to really take your idea from something that's in your head to something that you're beginning to create in the world, in those really very first steps, you don't need much other than Google, which is so often used that I feel like it's almost overrated, but it's really kind of mind-blowing that you actually can find the answer to almost anything, or you can find people that have answers to almost anything through Google and LinkedIn. So I think to get started, you don't really need much other than just that conviction that you're going to move ahead into the darkness and really embrace the feeling of uncertainty. And I know for me at least, I was absolutely terrified. And I think every day I'm still terrified, but just knowing that that's actually a good thing because it means that you're walking into something that is really going to help you build your best life and create something meaningful for others. I think from the what do you have to give up? For me, I never looked at it as me giving something up because for me, I was so passionate about the mission to kick sugar that we were on that I just couldn't see myself doing anything otherwise. But from a what does that look like perspective, I mean, when you're getting started and it's just you, your idea moves forward with you and it stops with you. So every minute, second, hour that you're putting into progressing your idea, that's moving it forward. And if you're choosing time to put towards something else, it also stops at that point. So I think getting really realistic about the end vision that you have and where you want to see the product in the world. Do you want it to be serving a regional community? Do you want it to be a global product? Getting clear with what your end goal is can help you to also inform the effort and time you want to put into it on a day-to-day basis.
So I got that that you don't feel like you gave anything up, because Tara's a huge conceptual thinker. So what does that look like? What does a day look like for you in terms of hours? How many hours a day do you work right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I probably have a pretty skewed sense of reality, but I'll wake up in the morning, usually go to the gym at like 5:30 in the morning. Then I'll start taking calls or be on my mobile doing emails at like 6:30, and then all the way through to like midnight. Usually I'm either at the office or then at my home from my laptop tinkering away. So it's pretty much from the moment I wake up, I'm thinking about what does Smart Suites need today, how can I serve our squad, what could we be missing here, so always looking at things through the lens of what's not working and what gaps can we fill in now to avoid potential roadblocks coming up as we progress. So I really eat, sleep, live, and breathe Smart Suites. And I think that just ties back to that passion that you have and really thinking about, is what you're creating and building in the world something that you feel in your gut is so important that you believe that you really truly need to be the person creating this for others.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely you. I often call her like the CEO vampire, because she's up in the middle of the night, and it's not unusual for me to get an email at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so those of us that are around her are often like, oh, I thought I put in a big work day yesterday, but there she is at it again. So you started, like I said, with just a couple of people. When was it that you knew that you needed more than Google and 2 people?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to get honest with yourself about what you're not good at. And I think that being youth is actually makes it easier to do that in a way, I think, because there's everyone in the world has been in your shoes, and when you reach out to them, I found at least a lot of people kind of saw their like younger versions of themselves in me, and so wanted to help me. And so it's kind of like a secret weapon being young. So yeah, I guess I went on a tangent there, but
That's so unusual.
Yeah.
When is it that you knew you needed more than Google 2 people to take it to the next level?
Yeah, well, being honest about what you don't know. So, I mean, from day one, I was on Google finding people in the food industry, sending them emails that I look back now and cringe at, because I was like, I have this idea, I really think it's gonna work, but I need your help, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but just please hop on the phone with me for like 5 minutes, and I promise it'll be worth it. So I think really just taking the leap and being okay with reaching out to people that you don't know and finding people that have done what you're wanting to do, and asking them for 5 minutes or 10 minutes of their time, knowing that also they don't owe you their time, and so having gratitude for the fact that they're actually carving out a window in their day, I think, is really important. But from day one, I think it's really important to begin finding people and surrounding yourself with people who can lend you their golden nuggets of wisdom to apply to your journey.
So now, you said 17 people across, we just launched in the US 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is needed next for you? What are your next hires? What's the next step? Where is the focus now?
Yeah, so for Smart Suites, we really want to, at the end of the day, create effortless accessibility so that when you have a craving for your sweet tooth, whether you're at the movies, you're on the airplane, you're at your favorite grocery store, you have accessibility to candy that you can feel good about and don't have to think twice about finding it. So for Smart Sweets, what's next for us is we're in 3,000 doors today. At the end of the year, we'll be in 10,000 and really starting to build out on where you can find Smart Sweets. So for example, in Canada, next week, we're launching nationwide with Cineplex, so you can find Smart Sweets when you're going to watch a movie at the theater. And then from an innovation standpoint, we launched with gummy bears, really because it was something that at some point growing up, everyone's had gummy bears. And it was one of the only things, to be honest, that I could really make in my kitchen. And so
Was
that
the only mold on Amazon?
the only available mold on Amazon.
Yeah.
So we're really growing out our Kick Sugar candy set. So we are launching Starbursts and Sour Patch Kids and Skittles and Swedish Fish, not named those things because they're trademarked, but so growing out innovation, distribution, and really just forward thinking to the vision, which is really becoming the global leader in innovating confectionery products that kick sugar and really empowering people to actually feel good about enjoying the foods they love.
Wow. So what does Oma think? What does your grandma think about all of this? Because it really started with Oma in some ways.
When I started and I dropped out of university, for her that was really hard because growing up, she wasn't fortunate enough to have the opportunity to have post-secondary education. So to me, she was like, why would you throw that away? You're literally recipe testing your kitchen. Are you in the loony bin? And so for her, it was really something that was hard to understand. I think she began to came around when we were on Dragon's Den, because for her, it's like, I think TV and seniors, there's something.
What's going to validate you is TV.
Yeah. She watches TV a lot.
Not the 15 million TV.
Yeah. Seeing Smart Sweets, I think, on there for her kind of validated that, hey, entrepreneurship is a viable path, and you actually can create something in the world from an idea in your head and it be actually a sustainable choice from a career perspective. So she now is like our biggest sales lady in her building. She'll be swimming every day, and people will be like, hey, can I get a sample? And she's like, no, you go to London Drugs next door and you buy it. So she's a good sales lady now.
No free samples here. No free samples here. Your biggest, the most pivotal thing that happened to you in the last year? The most pivotal in terms of either a decision you made or something that you saw within your organization?
Yeah, I think probably the most pivotal thing is more than an event. It's kind of just been an observation. And I think it's kind of been that nobody really knows what they're doing. I always thought that like at a certain point you get to a place and you're like, okay, I feel like I have it figured out now, or I feel like I get what I'm doing and I understand how to get there. And the more that we progress along, I really realize that that's not the case. And the people who continue to actually move forward and succeed in what they're doing are the ones that just start and don't stop. It's not that they have some superpower or some knowledge or some hidden secret that most people don't have access to. So that's been really mind-blowing for me, because I'm like, okay, as long as we just continue moving forward and commit to not stopping despite the fear and the uncertainty and all the internal voices in my head, then we're going to be okay.
Yeah, those voices in your head, those are the source of most of our phone calls. Yeah, exactly. So what is it that when you look now at the organization as the Smart Sweets, the company, the squad, what would you name your biggest skill for you personally? And what would you name the skill, your worst skill? What is the thing that you need the most support in? So what is the thing that you think you kind of shine at, besides Google, because you do shine at Google? And then what is the thing that you're like, that's like my biggest learning?
Yeah, I think my strength is that I don't have much ego attached to anything. And so I'm the first to say, hey, I actually don't know that. What are your thoughts? Or if I don't know something, to ask someone that does. And so I'm okay being the stupidest person in the room proudly. I think what I am learning is that, okay, as you build out a team and everyone has this shared passion that not everyone wants to or can, by means of having kids and a family, work from the early a.m. to wee hours of the night. So for me, that was hard because I was like, what, you're going to stop at midnight? Like, we have places to go. So I think just having empathy for the fact that when you're actually now building out a team, different people have different situations, and what that looks like in terms of how they work and how much they work is always going to be different than it is for me.
I believe that anything serves you if you believe it serves you. So when you said about being young gives you, a little bit of a lift or a bit of an opportunity, I think that's true. But I also think it's true because you believe it to be true. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you're 45, you will land on something that you think gives you an opportunity, because I think you look for opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that you, in my view, having spent time with you, you are somebody that goes to right away to what's the best case scenario here. You're realistic, but you're full of optimism. So I think that speaks to your optimistic nature, which, by the way, in emotional intelligence and in entrepreneurship, as long as it's deeply rooted with a good idea of reality, is the most important thing, that sense of optimism. Because we've sat in a boardroom together where if we didn't have that view, we could feel crushed in any given day. So I think that is huge. And I think, so on the other side of that, I think that where youth can get in your way is, like we sometimes said, you just don't know what you don't know yet, and including you don't understand or have a natural empathy for others' lives until you start to get to understand them more. So I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that. We've got 3 minutes left, and I heard that we're going to do more questions over in the next panel that you and I are on together, not here. So I'm going to finish off with this. First of all, tell us, what does this look like in the end for you? What's the end game of Smart Suites?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the things I'm most excited about with Smart Suites is that in the food industry as a whole and in the grocery store as a whole, candy is kind of the epicenter of sugar in the whole industry. So if we can successfully address sugar and candy, it kind of raises the larger question of, hey, why is so much added sugar in our foods in 2018 at all? So for ketchup, for example, why does ketchup even have 3 teaspoons of sugar per tablespoon? And so I think it really kind of challenges the larger status quo. And so what is an ideal world for me is a world where there's transparent access to food products that actually have authentically good ingredients for us. And for me, sugar is what I'm so passionate about, because in our food products, sodium has been addressed, carbohydrates, fat, but sugar has always been kind of the one swept under the rug. So really bringing that to the forefront.
If you were going to leave those watching you right now with a single piece of advice about what they might be passionate in or about, what would your piece of advice be to them?
Gosh, I mean, well, one, that's like really cool that you're here today, because it's really awesome that you are surrounded by other people who are also thinking of ideas. And so I guess it'd be twofold. One is to like really intentionally continue to surround yourself with people that share that mindset of unlimited possibility and creation, and that anything's possible, and that don't make you feel stupid for having this massive vision, but only having it as an idea in your head right now. So I think that kind of coupled with, for me, if I was in your shoes, I think I wish that earlier on I really discarded the thoughts and opinions of others, because I realized that, especially in high school, for me, I really kept myself from acting on ideas because I always thought, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable, or what is this person going to think or that person going to think? And so the minute that you actually discard what others will think, or how they might make you feel, it kind of like unlocks the opportunity for you to act and build your wildest dreams. And so, I think it would be just to continue to surround yourself with people that are lifting you up with the crazy vision that you have, that you might not even fully believe it's possible yet because it's so crazy, and to really discard the thoughts and opinions of others that isn't working towards allowing you to build and build on that passion and excitement that you have for what you're doing.
Thanks, Tara. I mean, I alluded to earlier, great advice, great insight. I alluded to earlier that you were one of the smartest people I know in terms of your ability to assimilate. What I also know is that you are one of the most humble people I know, and one of the most gracious people I know. And for that, I am honored to work with you. So thank you very much, and thank you, everybody.